children's story. It's time for children's story. Let's give God all the glory. It's time for children's story. We come to sit and listen and hear a Bible lesson. Let's give God all the glory. It's time for children's story. Come and listen, come and listen, come and listen. It's time for children's story. Come and listen, come and listen, come and listen. It's time for children's story.
Boys and girls, so far we have built the tabernacle, learned about the 12 tribes, learned about the high priest and the common priests, and today we are going to learn about the outer court. Thank you for sticking around with me. Let's get right into it. There's only one entrance to the tabernacle, and the rest of the courtyard is surrounded by a white fence. This fence is to protect the people from accidentally coming too close to the tabernacle. A person will walk through the gate of the court to do one of two things: to offer a sacrifice for sin or thanksgiving. In the outer court, we have two furniture to talk about. We have the altar and the laver. The bronze altar was square, and it was made of acacia wood with horns and rings at each corner. It was 7.5 feet long, 7.5 feet wide, and 4.5 feet high. The acacia wood was covered with bronze. The poles to carry the altar were covered with bronze. Bronze utensils such as shovels, basins, fresh hooks, which are forks, and fire pans to collect ashes were used on the bronze altar. Under the altar was a bronze grate with a ring in each corner. Remember when Adam and Eve sinned? What did God tell them would happen if they sinned? God said, they will surely die. Did Adam and Eve die right away after eating the fruit God told them not to eat? No, they didn't die instantly. What did God offer so that they didn't die right away? He provided a way for them to cover their sins temporarily. How did God do this? God allowed the blood of an animal to atone or take away sin. By doing this, the people could worship God by entering into His presence. Isn't God merciful? When the people of Israel sinned, they didn't die right away, but they had to offer a sacrifice for their sins. Do you think that God accepted any kind of animal? Do you think He said to the people to bring whatever they wanted? No. God said to bring the best, the finest animal, the perfect animal to sacrifice. Why the perfect animal? Well, the animal represented took the punishment of the person. God wanted the sacrifice to be valuable. This perfect animal had value, and the person offering this animal as their sacrifice would feel the loss of this value. Do you think the people of Israel sacrificed an animal one time and it covered all their sins and future sins? No, the sacrifices only covered their sins temporarily, so they had to continue to sacrifice animals for their sins. Let me show you how it was done. A person enters the gate with their animal and meets a priest in the courtyard. The animal was placed on a table, and the person would put their hand on the head of the animal and kill it. The person's sins were placed on the animal, and the animal died in their place. The priest would then sprinkle the blood on the sides of the altar. The priest would then place the animal on the altar. It was an aroma that was pleasing to God. Were animals the only offerings offered at the altar? There were several offerings offered at the altar, such as, for the burnt offering, bulls, sheep, goats, doves, or pigeons were offered. For the grain offering, cakes or wafers of fine flour. For peace offering, a goat or a lamb. For sin offering, a bull or a lamb. For trespass offering, a female from the flock, a lamb, goat kid, dove, pigeon, or grain. Boys and girls, this altar was a busy place. The priest had to make sure that the fire was always burning. This furniture of the tabernacle was used the most. What is another name for the bronze altar? The bronze altar was also known as the altar of burnt offering or the altar of sacrifice. Why was this bronze altar used the most? It was used the most because people brought sacrifices all day long. What activities took place at the bronze altar? Two types of sacrifices were offered on the bronze altar: the sin sacrifice and the gift sacrifice. The laver was also made from bronze, and it was placed between the altar and the tent of meetings. The basin was filled with water. The priests used the laver for ceremonial washing. After the priest was finished with the sacrifice at the altar, he washed his hands and feet at the laver. Why did the priest wash his hands and feet before entering the tabernacle? By washing his hands and feet, he made himself pure. If the priest did not make himself pure before entering the tabernacle, he would die. If you want to learn more about the outer court, read Exodus chapter 27, verses 1 to 19, and Exodus chapter 30, verses 17 to 21. Next week, we will enter the holy place. Today, we don't have to sacrifice an animal whenever we sin. Why? Because Jesus came to earth and offered himself as the perfect sacrifice. Jesus atones for sin. I am glad that God sent Jesus to atone for our sins. Today we can pray and ask for forgiveness whenever we sin, and he will forgive us. Are you glad too?